So, 2022, huh? This is something new for me. I'm not used to talking about myself, let alone recording just in the privacy of my own living space. But I figure that end of the year may as well be the best way for me to keep track of where my life's been, maybe something to look back on later, and who knows, somebody out there might actually enjoy this. I can definitely say that while most people would probably refer to that year as a freaking nightmare, and I could see the argument in that because it didn't start off well for me, there were some benefits, just like there are benefits in any part of life, really. Like, there's good and the bad, and you have to take both of them if you're going to survive, I guess. Just keep track of what the positives are in your life too, because there's always going to be something bad going on. And frankly, I'm a pessimist. I'm well aware that I am very pessimistic around my group of friends. Personally, I consider it more realistic, but I mean, people would say that for any pessimist, really. So, this is going to overall, I would assume, be pretty negative as a result of that. So, if you guys are looking for something to cheer you up, I would recommend looking elsewhere because, first of all, this is kind of candid. So, I'm just kind of going to be talking just out of the top of my head. And knowing that I am a very pessimistic person and have experienced quite a lot of negatives in this year, you guys may not feel so great after you hear what I have to say. I hope that it would inspire you, but if you're prone to being, you know, brought down to losing your sense of positivity if you hear somebody else being negative, then I would say this video is not for you. And I'm also going to try to be a little bit private. I'm not going to be giving names or anything because I don't want to put myself that far out there, as I'm sure anybody can understand. Uh, and as far as I'm aware, only my friends are going to watch this, but who knows? In 50 years when I'm dead, somebody's going to watch this. Anyway, enough of that. Let's begin. 2022. Uh, it did not start off well, as I said. Christmas of 2021, I lost my third granddad on my mom's side. Um, he was a great source of positivity and happiness for my Nana, and she she obviously was taking it very hard when he was admitted to the hospital because he was already starting to succumb to dementia. And uh, what happened was he was being taken to a care facility, and someone brought their family member to that same care facility while they had the coronavirus. And as a result, my granddad got infected and was administered, or admitted rather, to the hospital on Christmas morning. Uh, he died the next day, and she took that very hard. Um, it didn't take long after that for my parents to have my brother uh, move out of the house to stay with her instead because she needed the company, and they felt that this was going to be more beneficial for both her and him, I think, to uh, to put him in her care so that he would be able to visit her more often and she would not be lonely while they were both doing their best to take care of their own household and move forward because their kids are grown up now. I'm out on my own, and they probably felt that he should probably start trying to branch out a little bit more as well. um for my side of things, I had already been staying in an apartment uh, with two roommates, soon to be one because one of them was moving out. Unfortunately, the one was not very easy to deal with because he has some undiagnosed, I would absolutely undiagnosed if he has anything going on. I would assume that he did and does possibly mental issues. Uh, in that he is very easily stressed out and behaved very much like it's all the world's fault. Nothing is on him. And it reached a point where he quit his job, uh, telling me that he could see the signs that the ship was going down, were his exact words. And I said, okay, well, you're going to have a job within a month. 3 months passed, and he had no job. So I told him, all right, that's it. I'm not renewing my rent with you. You're going to have to figure something out real damn soon because I'm out. I'm not going to sit here and wait for you to kill your bank bill and then rely on me to bail you out and end up, putting us both on the street. That was rough for me. He ended up moving out to live with his sister in her rental home, which was also due to have the lease out. So, frankly, I have no idea where he is. Um, but overall, that was a positive step for me because I've moved into this place now. I'm much more comfortable not dealing with with somebody who has their own issues, especially if they're going to be raising their voice at a video game at night while I'm trying to sleep and get ready for the morning shift. Uh, the sense of privacy is pretty positive. I would say that if you're looking for a place to live by yourself, you absolutely first need to make sure that you have a job that is paying you enough to manage that, including your bills, grocery, electricity. I was not prepared to set up for electricity and internet and all that, so that was a lot of calculating that I had to do. And but if you are able to get all of that down, then frankly, I say go for it. First of all, it will help to inspire a sense of independence in you and also commitment to understanding, what it is to be an adult, to pay your own way in life, to know where your restrictions lie in what you can afford to buy for yourself for fun, how much time you need to put into your job, and um, how to balance your daily schedule, really, so that you'll know uh, how much time has to be put into your job because I had to shift to working full time in order to afford paying for this. I was part time originally, and thankfully, full time positions opened up in my department where originally they weren't, uh, at a grocery chain that I work for. So I had the positive change after, it's been kind of up and down already, is we had a negative at the very top of the year, followed by a pretty difficult but overall big positive. Uh, Followed by another positive was a friend of mine from out of the country wanted to visit some friends here. And I don't know how he managed to afford it, but he rented a car to drive across the border to visit with some mutual friends of ours that we have online that we talk to in chat groups and what have you. Stopped at this state and that one, came all the way down here to meet with me, and then we flew back up north to visit together because he had visited the initial two people himself to visit some mutual friends of ours who are very friendly and we love them a lot, to visit them. Spent about a week over there. And for those of you who are considering meeting friends online, again, budget, make sure that you have enough not only for the trip, but also to support yourself when you get back. And make sure that the folks on the other end are okay with having you there. Because what we had to do was, of course, we had to rent a hotel room because we couldn't just stay with them for a whole week. They weren't able to uh, take a break from their jobs for that. That's not viable for three people all at once, I think. Um, but we had a great time meeting them. And if you guys are looking to meet with people who are in your chat room who you've grown close enough to consider them friends, I would say that frankly, it's not as scary as a lot of people might think. The only difference is that you're talking out loud, really. I mean, if these are people that you've been typing out messages to for the past 3 years or so, then odds are very, very good that they are not going to be put off by having you there in person. Um, and nothing really changes from meeting someone face to face, at least in my opinion. You know a bit about how they look, but you've always known them in spirit, and that's what counts, right? It doesn't matter what somebody looks like, and they very likely are not going to care what you look like because they know who you are. You've spoken to them, you've put yourself out there for them, and they've done the same for you. So if you can, I would recommend meeting the people that you have in your life that you feel particularly close to. Let's see. Um, there were financial scares, of course. Twice in this year since I've gotten this apartment, I had to get help from friends and get help from relatives because I ended up spending more than I could afford, uh, not being able to cover my rental or, yeah, the rent for this apartment. Um, I had to have people bail me out, and that's not something that you can count on. You're don't be like me, folks. Don't, even as gifts for friends, don't spend too much on things. Keep track of your budget. It's annoying, but um, do the math. Keep a whiteboard or something like I do, where you write down how much you have available to spend versus how much you have coming in from your paychecks. And for any time that you get, time cuts or extensions, be sure to include that in how much money you have left. Otherwise, you're going to end up, oh, I can afford this right now, and you splurge one too many times, and the month is not going to forgive you. Um, on that note, yeah, my apartment has filled out a little bit more with display junk and toys and what have you. Uh, a lot more of it is just decoration than actual utility, I'm ashamed to say. Um, it's one of those bachelor pads where it's full of toys and action figures and what have you. And there is some buyer's remorse in a lot of this, but at the same time, it's stuff that makes me happy. So it's one of those things, just like pretty much anything in life, where you have to decide what it is that's going to make you happy and how much you can afford to spend on that, apart from the absolute necessities of food, electricity, and all that. Keep yourself happy, but don't don't splurge. Don't go out there buying too much in one sitting. Decide for yourself what the one thing is that you want to splurge on for the month, really, and that'll be it. But I had help, you know, I had help staying here, and I'm thankful for what little of my family is nearby enough to be comfortable with that sort of thing and are able to provide me with a means of paying them back. Um, always make sure that you have the commitment, really, to pay back what other people do for you as well. If it's just something as simple as cleaning up the patio, cleaning out the gutters from the rooftops or what have you, because my family, frankly, as frustrating as it is, I am the only able-bodied person in my family that is able to climb up on the roof to do garden labor for an extended period of time. And I frankly hate that because I don't like having to care for both my parents and my grandparents. That's a lot of division for me on top of a full-time job and on top of creative stuff like this, which I really should be drawing, but it's very difficult for me to to focus on that at the same time as I'm talking to you guys. I'll try. The thing is, um, at the end of the day, like you're not sworn to, I guess the best way to put it respectfully is to care for your parents and your grandparents. True, they are the ones who brought you into their life, but they understood the commitment that came with, raising you to one day send you out to be an adult on your own. Not so that you could pay them back by babysitting them. That is not a healthy relationship to have with your parents. And if that is the only basis that they have for raising you, then you need to get the heck out of Dodge. My parents are not like that. They do raise that point multiple times, and I have to fire back that, hey, you knew what you were getting into and you moved away. So I cannot come out there to take care of you while I'm also struggling to take care of myself. But respect your family and understand that when they care for you, you need to care for them back in the moment, not as like a lifetime commitment. So they've helped me out a lot twice that I was not able to to finance myself here. And I'm slowly, steadily building that up to the point where I can have much more in my savings account than I know what to do with. Not that I would want to break into that to begin with. That is the whole point of a savings account. For emergencies only. Always commit that to memory. Um, so we returned from the cross-country trip. What happened at the end there was he flew back, and as we left, the rental car that he had taken was to be turned in at the airport, which he did. So he flew back one way, I flew back on the other. And it was very different. Uh, Getting on a plane without an escort. It was the very first time that I'd gotten on a plane all by myself. And the first time as well that I had gotten on a plane without my parents around. Not too uncomfortable because there were other times where we'd gotten on a plane and ended up dividing out our seats. You sit next to strangers because there's not enough space. Or maybe you got lucky and that never happened to you. It happened to me. Not that bad, but of course I had my computer with me and what have you. If you're a techie, then you're going to be able to distract yourself from the fact that you're sitting next to somebody that you don't know. And I can guarantee that the person sitting next to you is not going to give a crap who you are either. They just want to get to where the hell they're going. Um, but we flew back, got a ride, ended up back at my apartment. And work has been tricky. Of course, there have been shifts where uh, you rely on other people to organize the department. I mean, when you're not a manager yourself, you expect for your managers to keep uh, everybody around you in line, make sure that everyone is doing their job. And it's very stressful when people aren't able to do what you perceive to be their job or are actively ignoring their job because screw it, this is just a summer gig or a winter gig or what have you, and then I'm just going to move on with my life. And that mentality, of course, is going to hurt everybody else. But there's not really anything that you can do aside from grin and bear it. I certainly don't grin, but I do bear it. Christmas came around again. Got pretty rough, but at least this time the managers remembered what had happened in the past couple years and gave us a bit more respect in our department than they would have otherwise. And as a result, I was not thoroughly stressed out and was able to do my job with as little interruptions and as little hassle as possible given the holiday season. I skipped forward a bit. Dungeons and Dragons, I started playing two campaigns, one Pokemon themed and one uh, somewhat more in the standard 5e uh, world building, though both definitely homebrew. There's a lot of leeway being given by the DMs in the sense that the rules are not as clear cut from out of the book. We shaved back a good few uh, rules in order to be able to play it properly. Properly in the sense that, everybody can enjoy it. The Pokemon one was very fun for what it was, but as time went on, our DM for that game got very overwhelmed, which was absolutely understandable because she was sacrificing a lot of her sleep schedule in order to make it work. Um, this is a group of online friends, so of course everybody is practically bound to be coming from different time zones, even different corners of the world, which was the case for her. And she was staying up in her time zone till about 2 or 3 in the morning to get to her school courses within, I believe it was 5 hours of sleep from the very moment that the games would end. So that was assuming that she managed to fall asleep right then and there, that she would only have about 5 hours of sleep. And it became too much for her to the point that um, tensions picked up a little bit. And frankly, I think it was for the best that our group decided to call off that game. That was the primary reason. There was some internal conflict between members. But I think that overall the stress was the main factor, and it was for the benefit of everyone involved. That between how the game itself, the plot, was improvised. I don't think that she had a clear end in mind, and the fact that she was trying to keep up with about 4 different players' characters at the time while improvising, while staying up late, while going to school was not enough, was too much rather for her to handle. So I think it was for the best that that game was ended. We have been playing another game as well, like I said, more based in the standard 5e, which is more complicated to discuss because when you're a creator, like me, when you're someone who has um, a character that you design, that you get attached to, it can be difficult to accept, I guess, when things don't go your way. I know that that sounds pretty selfish, but I mean, you have a story in mind for your character. Usually, at the very least, something for them to grow into or adjust to as time goes on. Something for them to learn or something for them to accomplish at the very least. And unfortunately, what happened for the previous character that I had for this campaign was that he was already written to be a very suspicious and untrusting character. And what I did not know, the beauty of, everybody having their own plans for their characters that are to be revealed in the future, was that somebody else was already going to set up, or 2 players rather, were already going to set up a scenario that was incredibly suspicious to the other players and potentially would lead to a lot of drama and arguments, potential enemies to be made, arguments to be had. And playing my character to call them out on that, to say, hey, this is suspicious, I don't trust you. Uh, Unfortunately, because both sides were written in a way that they were going to stick to their guns, meant that my character uh, very, very, very quickly got to a point where he, felt threatened by absolutely everyone, all the other players, all the NPCs. And I had to tell the DM, look, I'd better retire this character now because if we keep going and he's not provided the means to leave, then he is going to start like actively sabotaging people and trying to get them killed. And that's not going to be fun for our campaign. So I had to let him go, and I wrote a new character uh, to pick up where they left off, basically, which was interesting, a fun experience to play that out and introduce everybody to their new party member, which of course the characters in the game did not realize at the time, and neither did my character. Um, Unfortunately, the issue has only continued, and I do respect the other players and the DM, not just for the fact that the DM on her part is trying to balance, the plans and desires of the other players involved for where they want their characters to go, including myself, but also for having to play so unbelievably many NPCs to portray them being involved in this uh, adventure, this conflict, this mystery, everything that's coming up as things go along. Um, the problem for me is that there is a noticeable divide in which these two player characters who have set up this uh, this mystery, this suspicious behavior that has been going on, which drove off my original first character for this campaign, caused him to quit. They've continued doing it. They've stuck to their guns, which again makes perfect sense. But they've not been challenged on it by any NPCs or any other player characters besides mine this entire time. Whereas my character has been thoroughly challenged by being concerned about it, with everyone lying to them and their closest friend, an NPC, even gaslighting them that this is disrespectful, even though that NPC had already looked into it themselves and just didn't tell anyone. Gaslighting. Not cool. Um, so, myself as the player, I've been having to write the character as gradually getting stressed out by all of this because they are currently in the exact same position where the first one was. They feel threatened by everyone around them as the result of these people sticking so firmly to their guns that this suspicious behavior by the other two player characters is not suspicious, is justified, is worth them keeping their secrets. And that is thoroughly frustrating for me to have um, my new character be so thoroughly shafted this early in their time in the game, whereas the others are going about their business and being treated with utmost respect. Um, and it's certainly interesting for everybody to watch play out. My my feelings aside, personally, I need to understand that this group is just something that's here for fun. First of all, it is absolutely not meant to uh, let my character have their way. That is simply not how D&D works. But I can't easily divorce my feelings from the knowledge that these other two players are getting their way. Granted, one of them is stressed out about it, but they are not being put into a position where this behavior is being challenged in just about any way. One person has said that they are acting suspiciously, but he has also allowed them to continue acting suspiciously and is the same NPC who gaslit my character for being suspicious about it. So I don't think that I want to quit the game. I do want to power through a little bit more, see that I'm able to make it through, I think, to not a conclusion, but to a point where the game becomes fun again for me. But it is also very possible that this just is not something that I will be able to enjoy for myself. And if I can't, then I'm going to need to step back from the game, just like our DM for the other game did for herself, because it's not healthy for me to be putting myself in a position where I'm getting stressed out, especially not over a fictional character, regardless of the fact that I made them myself. Because it is my baby. Making creative projects in any way is an exciting thing, but you can't expect others to, roll over for you, especially not in a collaborative project like a game or a group role play like Dungeons and Dragons is. And that being the case, like I said, I'm going to try to stick it out a little bit longer, but if I'm continuing to have these feelings, then I'm going to have to stop for my own sake. Um, and that's not to say that I can't still enjoy D&D, because I am also uh, mastering a game of my own with most of these people, actually, where I sort of picked up where that first game left off. I created a Pokemon Dungeons game of my own. And it's fun, but difficult. Absolutely difficult to be finding the resources that you need to be playing these sorts of games online. But what can you do? If you love something, you have to be able to commit the time to it, which is what I'm attempting to do. It's certainly a lot of effort to set up resources and find maps, find character art, and all that good stuff. But if you love something enough, then you'll find a way to do it. Um, it's been very fun playing that game. If only for the sense that, you get to put out a world and enjoy people going through it. I would hope that that's how the friend who is managing her game sees it. I think that she does, because she definitely seems to enjoy, laughing and joking along with the rest of us. And we'll see how that goes, because I do have an ending planned out for mine. Um, and it's interesting to improv to see how things play out among the other characters as they play their characters, bounce off of each other, react to the situations at hand. Um, Overall, after that, nothing all that much significant happened. We had Christmas this year as a family with an uncle of ours coming to visit. I had a suspicion, which has not been confirmed, that maybe he came out here because uh, because of the fact that we had yet another granddad pass Our final granddad passed just before Christmas. Um, and as such, we are left only with our grandmothers now. It's not something that's bothered me too much because, as I would hope most of you are not familiar with, and frankly, I'm sorry to those of you who are, but my family is rife with divorces and remarriages. And both of my biological granddads were separated from their wives because of something that they did. Um, so this man was not in my life very much at all. I was aware of his name. I was aware of which side of the family he came from. I was aware of who he was with uh, afterward. And frankly, I think he did a very terrible thing by leaving the family like that. But he chose happiness for himself, and that is what he got, I believe. I'm not sure if he passed with any regrets, but I hope that he had a happy life. It seems that he did. So, all that to say, I believe that our uncle came to visit us for Christmas because he felt that mortality coming up on him as well, as many of us probably do when we start to lose the people that we love. Um, and he's a fun guy. He is something of a nerd like myself, so there was plenty to discuss. Um, I believe that he's gone back out of state now, back to where he lives. If not, he's soon to leave because we've just had New Year's. As you can see from the calendar down there in the bottom right, it is the 1st of 2023 now. Last night was New Year's Day. Or this is New Year's Day, rather. Last night ticked over. Leading to the final note of 2022, or the first note of 2023, whichever you prefer. Some idiot across the street from my apartment complex either set their house or someone else's house on fire. So I woke up for my 4 o'clock a.m. shift with fire alarms going off, or specifically fire sirens from a fire truck. And when I hopped on my bike and left the place, there were 10 fire trucks lined up outside of a group of houses across from the complex. I'm safe, of course, and I don't know what that was all about because it doesn't have to do with my apartment. But I would hope that the folks who were involved in that are safe and unhurt. I hope that if it was the result of somebody being careless with fireworks, that they were duly punished for what they did, either to their own house or to other people. God forbid that that happened to somebody who wasn't directly involved. Um, but yeah, that's the start of the new year. Is seeing firsthand how much trouble people can get into when they're so obsessed with celebrating something, which to me, frankly, is very minor, almost not worth talking about. Because, see, guys, I don't consider the ticking over of a new year on the calendar to be particularly important. It's a good point to reflect on uh, what occurred throughout the year's worth of time that has passed, but you could do that on your birthday. You could do that on any other holiday, I don't think that it's worth reacting as if the past year, has ended. Therefore, we have the opportunity to make a better year this year. You can do that at any time. Treating it as though all the bad is going to go away simply because you, quote, started fresh is a ridiculous mindset to me. You should really go about your life with the impression that every day is special. And I know a lot of people out there are probably going to say, but I do. Yeah, then do not react like, God, 2022 is finally over. That's not how it works. We are not cursed by some arbitrary number on the calendar. The only thing that influences our life and the lives of those around us is the actions that we take. So, you know, do what you can to make your life meaningful and to make other folks' lives meaningful as well. Because at the end of the day, we're all we've got. I'm a religious person myself, but I am aware that there's no way of proving my beliefs. By definition, faith cannot be proven. It's a matter of believing in something that's not accessible. I did not get very far in this at all. Who could have thought? But yeah, I'd say that that's my review for this year. For me personally, it's been tricky, but it's had a lot of ups and downs too. This tablet here, I did not have until around the middle of this year, or last year rather, 2022, because of the kindness of friends who wanted to see me get into creative projects a bit more. I did not know how to use OBS until my friends from Dungeons and Dragons recommended it as software that I could use. So I've installed that for the sake of our games, and as it turns out, for this year's end review that I'm doing right now. And all said and done, I'm happy with where I'm at in life. Things could be better, absolutely. I could have $1 billion in the bank account right now. I don't think anybody would say that that would be particularly off-putting. But where I'm at in my life, what I have in terms of finances, in terms of living, in terms of entertainment, friends and family, I'm happy with it. And if you guys are struggling with anything like that, then yeah, like I say, try to put yourself out there. As long as you know that the option is there, I would say do it. Because if it's something that's viable to do and the only thing that's holding you back is concern over what will happen afterward, then you're only going to be, shielding yourself from the potential good in the world as much as the bad. And if bad does happen to you, then, I mean, it's not going to be fun by any stretch of the imagination. Like I say, I'm struggling with a freaking Dungeons and Dragons game of all things, putting stress into me. But I do not regret playing that game in the first place. I do not regret that I've moved into a new apartment and put myself into a trickier situation with my finances. I do not regret having traveled out of state by myself, effectively by myself, because those have created experiences for me that I could never have had otherwise. And the same holds true for all of us. So, again, if you can, that is a decision that only you can make. But if you have the means, then you need to go for it. And if it does turn out bad in the end, then of course you'll need to cut your losses. You need to know when to pull back. Don't put yourself out there with somebody who you know you just fell in love with last month or who you only started talking to online recently. Gauge your limits, gauge what is safe and what isn't. Again, if the only thing that is holding you back is your own concern, then you need to be prepared to go for it. You need to make that leap towards something new in your life. I hope that this inspired you guys. It didn't turn out as negative as I thought it would. Who would have guessed? But yeah, things don't go anywhere by sitting and waiting for them to come to you, by waiting for some sign that it's the right time. And yes, that is coming from somebody who is religious, who believes that there is a higher force out there. You need to be prepared to take matters into your own hands. So do it. Become the kind of person that you want to be in life. And once you get there, you won't feel like you're on top of the world or anything, at least not in my experience, but you'll feel like you've gotten somewhere that's meaningful and that makes you happy. And that's really all that you can expect in life, is to reach that point where you're content. So I hope that you get there. I hope that this inspired you to take the steps to get there. Maybe someday you guys will look back on this like I might next year, play this recording back, and see how far you've come. I hope that it's somewhere really special. Happy 2023, you guys. Make the year something good.